Hello, my name is Bradley Wolcott, and today I'll be talking about a topic that spreads not only across our nation's youth, but also the entire world. The topic I'll be covering is suicide. Suicide is unlike any other action a human could take. For an individual to feel that it is in someone's best interest that they no longer exist in this world is a true tragedy. And a much like every tragedy resulting in death, the effect it has on others is worse when the one lost is a child. The helpless nature of a child adds to the sorrow felt in the wake of a loss that innocent is near unbearable. The tragedy of the death of a child is unbearable in its own right, but to have a child take their life with their own hands is pain enough to cause those around them to do the same. Everybody knows how awful suicide is, but most people think that suicide is a rare occurrence. Few people realize how common suicide is among our American youth. Suicide is within the top 5 causes of death among our youth. In all age groups, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death, which should be alarming if you didn't know that already. Following the stock market crash of 2008, not only were families affected by lack of funds, they also found themselves plagued by youth suicide. According to the CDC, the rate of suicide among those aged 10 to 24 increased nearly 60% between 2007 and 2018. After some stabilization in the economy, you would think that the suicide rate would decrease. It would only make sense, right? No, the suicide rate stayed up as high as it was 2 years ago and is on track to get even worse. If the stock market crash was enough to skyrocket the suicide rate, then what is going to be the result of the lockdown facing our country this year? Children go for half a year or more without seeing their friends and family who do not function well together are being forced to spend every minute of every day together. Even families who function well together will likely be experiencing more stress than ever before, and stressed parents lead to stressed children. When children are stressed, they need to be around friends to talk about their problems, and when in lockdown, these children are not legally allowed to go spend time with their friends. That is a formula for disaster. Kids cannot be kids in this time. That will be, without a doubt, a scare for our youth for the remainder of their lives and lead to the worst possible result, another skyrocket in rate of youth suicide. There are countless problems that can lead to suicide, but there are also many solutions to prevent any major suicidal actions. We must take action.
I have my ups and downs, just like anybody else.
Maybe more than anybody else.
I can be hard to figure out.
And I like my privacy. I don't want you looking over my shoulder all the time.
But you know your kid better than anybody else. And if you think he's acting different than usual,
Acting really down, crying all the time for no good reason.
Or getting really mad, not able to sleep, or sleeping too much.
Shutting her friends out or giving her stuff away.
Acting reckless, drinking, using drugs, staying out late.
Suddenly not doing stuff he used to love.
or doing stuff that's just not like him.
It might be nothing to worry about. It might just be high school.
Or it might be something more. He might be depressed.
Not just feeling down, really depressed.
It might be that your kid is thinking about killing himself. It happens. More than you think. More than it should.
And people say I had no idea.
I thought it was just a phase he was going through.
I never thought she'd do it.
I wish he'd come to me.
I wish he'd said something.
I wish I'd said something.
When it's too late. So if you think your kid's acting different, if she seems like a different person, say something.
Say, what's wrong? How can I help?
And ask straight out. Are you thinking about killing yourself? It doesn't hurt to ask. In fact, it helps.
When people are thinking about killing themselves, they want somebody to ask.
They want somebody to care.
Maybe you're afraid you'll make it worse if you ask. Like, you'll put the idea in their head.
Believe me, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
In fact, the best way to keep a teenager from killing herself is to ask, are you thinking about killing yourself?
And what if they say yes?
Or maybe.
Or sometimes,
Well, here's what you don't say.
That's crazy.
Don't be such a drama queen.
you're making too much of this.
That boy's not worth killing yourself over.
That's not going to solve anything.
You're just trying to get attention.
You're not going to kill yourself.
What you do say is,
I'm sorry you're feeling so bad. How can I help?
We'll get through this together.
Let's keep you safe.
A lot of people think about killing themselves. Adults and kids.
most of them never try it, but some of them do. So if your kid says,
I'd be better off dead.
I can't live with
I'm
this.
gonna kill myself,
Take her seriously. Find someone she can talk to about it. Someone who knows how to help.
Sometimes kids want to kill themselves because something happened. A breakup, a failure. But sometimes it goes deeper, and it's not going to go away by itself.
Get some help. Talk to to your doctor.
Or a counselor at school.
Or your minister.
But don't just let it drop.
And make sure that your kid always has someone to turn to. Someone he trusts.
Make a list together. Write them. 3, 4, 5 names.
Put a suicide hotline number on there too.
Have him keep that list in his wallet so he always knows where to turn.
Be sure your home is safe.
If you have pills she could use to hurt herself, lock them up.
If you have a gun, don't just lock it up. Get it out of the house. The bullets, too.
And one more thing. If you think your kid might be about to hurt himself, don't leave him alone.
Take him to the emergency room.
Call 911 if you have to.
We all have our ups and downs, but sometimes it's more than that.
If you think something's wrong, the only way to find out is to ask.
Ask straight out. Are you thinking about killing yourself?
Don't wait until you're sure. Trust your gut, because it never hurts to ask.
And it can make a big difference. All the difference.
In your kid's life.
As you can see, there are many ways to prevent this and many things that we need to do to watch out for all these things. So how suicide can be caused. People often ask how someone could ever take their own life. Some people see suicide as the most selfish act a person could ever take, but they forget how much pain most suicidal people have endured. There are countless situations that could make someone feel like they're taking their life is the only acceptable option. Many of these situations begin in a place of unbearable pain. This pain can be physical or mental. Maybe there's a school bully that beats up a child at school or berates a child nonstop for no reason at all. Loss is another common cause of suicide. Losing a loved one creates a pain like no other, especially if that loved one commits suicide. A sad fact is that suicide often brings more suicide from those left in its wake. Ignorance is another cause of suicide. Most, if not all, parents can see the signs of suicidal thoughts in their children. If a parent pays any attention to their child at all, they would notice a change in the mental state of their kid. Far too many parents in the United States just dismiss their kids' mental problems as just a phase. The parents are so uncomfortable with taking to their own child about whatever they're going through that they just do their best to ignore it. And when a problem as big as mental health is ignored, the rest can be deadly. The result. Ignorance is likely one of the biggest causes of suicide. If a parent knows that there's a problem and they choose to do nothing about it, the outcome of that problem is on them. I mentioned that suicide often leaves more suicide in its wake. Suicide is ironically a common cause of more suicide. Imagine the pain of losing a friend to suicide. Now imagine having a child and losing them to suicide. The death of a child is always worse than the death of an adult. The innocence and endless futures of a child all ruined because they felt it was in someone's best interest if they no longer existed. That level of pain would understandably make a parent feel so much pain that they no longer want to exist either. Suicide prevention for youth not only saves the lives of children across the country, but some parents as well. So, there's an answer to this problem. There are solutions. As you heard in the video and as I'm about to talk about right now, there is a way. I've gone over some of the major ways that suicide can be caused. Now I can go over some of the possible solutions to help prevent teen suicide. With how prominent social media is and how digital the world has become in recent years, much of the bullying children endure is online. Whether on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, anything to that nature, there are many ways a child can experience bullying in this generation. One easy way to stop cyberbullying on social media is just to log off of it. Step away from the phone or computer and nobody can send you an awful message. With how digital classes are now, maybe a cyberbullying problem is unavoidable. If children are going to be cuffed to their phones at all times, then it would be only logical step to assume that there will be an app to help with mental health. There are hundreds, but few are effective. In a study, over 2,600 apps, only 5 of them included necessary suicide prevention strategies. The market for suicide prevention apps is criminally untaped. If a kid needed someplace to go to discuss their problems and their parents ignored them, then the app based on mental health would be a good place to go. Another part of suicide prevention is discussing the warning signs that tend to show before any suicidal behavior. Youth suicide is usually triggered by a very negative event. This event can be a breakup, a divorce, abuse at home, bad grades at school, or so on. After an event like that, many children show signs that precurse suicide. There's a long list of these signs that can be found all over the internet. It is important that these signs be given to parents so that they have the knowledge of what their children may be feeling. The list of signs can be emailed by the school or even handed out to parents. The important part is that it gets into the parents' hands. So there are many parents out there who would rather ignore that their children is going through those hard times because it is uncomfortable to talk about, or they think it will make them tough. But that line of thought only leads to the follow-through or worse actions. The children are not hurting themselves and being in pain for attention. They are doing that because there is a glaring issue that needs handling. In a study of direct and indirect intervention, it was found that psychological and behavioral interventions that directly address suicidal thoughts and behavior are effective immediately post-treatment and long-term. If parents are not willing to directly address their children's problems, then a school counselor is another solution. Many children in school would be embarrassed to go to school counselor because they do not want to talk about their problems. However, it could be made mandatory by a school district that every school has a mandatory meeting with the counselor on a monthly basis. This could give students the chance that they need to talk about mental health to an adult. A counselor could directly intervene and address a problem. This could prevent lives from being taken at such a young age. Youth suicide is a glaring problem that is talked about fairly often but goes without solution. Kids need to either get off of their phones and social media to avoid cyberbullying, or at the very least, download an app to help them talk about their problems. Schools should be sending out a list of the precursors and warning signs of suicide to parents, especially with the coronavirus issue. Counselors of schools should have mandatory meetings with children of all ages across the school district, as they may give students a chance to address their problems and solve them then and there. Youth suicide is a problem that needs solving, and by using these strategies, we can help save potentially thousands of children's lives. Thank you for listening to my podcast, and I hope you have a wonderful day.